Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for the OPTC video, and in today's video, we're taking the new verse KAIDO into some Pirate Rumble and checking out the absolute monster in some PvP content. Now, KAIDO and Yamato, the verse unit, in my opinion, obviously has the most value, as this particular unit comes with the best of both worlds, and both of these characters in Rumble, in my opinion, are actually very, very good. So in today's video, we're focusing purely on KAIDO and what he can do for the int-driven powerhouse-centric team, because int-driven powerhouse have always had very, very good synergy, and for this particular unit to sort of slide in on the team is fairly effortless. The first team is sort of the powerhouse-centric build with Blackbeard. It's definitely an option because Blackbeard's driven and he can buff everyone, but I did find that the Kid variation that you guys will see in the next two fights does work a little bit nicer. So we're coming up against a Dex team first. Bit of a Dex fighter sort of centric build. It was nothing too crazy. I kind of just wanted to test out the team, and then kind of had sort of that mini epiphany that like Kid would just be way better for this. But KAIDO's passive gives int-type teammates HP level 6, attack level 6, and then revives himself at 50% one time, which is an absolute busted ability. As you guys have seen with Straw Hat Crew V2, it's very, very powerful when you have a very, very powerful special like KAIDO does, especially in the last 50 seconds of the battle, where KAIDO can actually give a 50% HP cut. I do have some knocks with what KAIDO does in the last 50 seconds, because his HP cut actually procs after he deals damage. He does 4 times his attack in a large horizontal range, and then after 50 seconds, he does that 50% HP cut. Whilst this is very, very good, it would make more sense, or would be way more beneficial, if KAIDO actually procced the 50% HP cut before doing the damage. If he did a 50% HP cut, and then did all of the damage that he does, he'd be an absolute disgusting powerhouse monster in PvP. He would destroy insane amounts of things. Like, it'd be absolutely wild what he would do. Cutting the HP at 50% and then just blasting everything into oblivion would be absolutely crazy. He's on a 36-second cooldown, which is very, very high, but with his passive, obviously reviving at 50%, it works quite nicely. Uta, 6+, the top music conversion is obviously so good for driven int-based teams. We have a Kid who can give a lot of HP and defense. He does a lot of damage as well. And then Moria with his half stats. The whole combination of all these characters together works very, very nicely. As you can see, we're rocking 28 HP, which is very, very good. Uta has some special cooldown on herself, which is great, because getting her half stats is very vital to staying alive. But as I mentioned, if KAIDO does die, he does have that 50% res, which means when he comes back, he usually procs his special, and you getting that 50% HP cut is very, very vital. It works great against like teams that have a lot of healing, like the Free Spirit team, like the Cerebral team that has just a buttload of healing. You can just come back and do some big ass numbers. Now, obviously, the Free Spirit team can be a little bit scary with the RNG, but as you guys will see here, like we're doing fairly okay. Even though we are losing units, KAIDO procced his revive there, and he's actually gonna like trigger after he gets this bind off him, which the 4 times damage too is nothing to scoff at. It's a lot of damage, like a butt ton of damage, and the fact that he does that, it's very, very handy. I would just love to have seen that 50% HP cut proc before, or even in like the first 50 seconds of battle, because KAIDO is very, very hard to get his special to proc off before the 50-second mark anyway. But I guess seeing that 50% proc, even though it's not super beneficial in the last 50 seconds, is better than not seeing it at all. So look, that is something to note. The other units on this team, we have the Giants. They're just great for int teams. They're powerhouse units. They do work and synergize very, very well. And then we have Smoker as a good nuker, and then just a regular nuker in the back. So the team works exceptionally well. I actually need to update it and use Pell over Dalton, just so he gets a little bit more powerhouse buffs, as Pell is a powerhouse booster as well as a Dex booster. That's something that I need to do moving forward, because like Moria, Top Musica, they're all powerhouse units. The Giants are powerhouse as well. So like Pell and Dalton, they're pretty equal in terms of like my eyes of like the best Rumble unit. But as a bench unit, like having access to Smoker and having Smoker buffed to this entire team just works exceptionally well as well. So you have a lot of really, really good options here. You have a lot of power, you have a lot of defense. As you can see, we have 8 defense off the starting gates, but all of that HP does make up for it. Plus, then we start getting buffs and halving stats. We can tank damage quite nicely because we have such a large HP buff ourselves. And then once we start popping off our specials, we can start doing lots and lots of damage there as well. So KAIDO overall in Rumble is very, very good, but he also has a GP stat. Being a Super Sugo Fest exclusive unit, they all have GP, and moving forward into the next Grand Party, he's going to be very, very good, as all of his stats are actually boosted in terms of the rules and what his GP actually does. So his GP leader skill will boost int and dex class allies, color allies. Int teammates HP up, blow 8%, and guard up level 6, and then does dex attack speed level 4, defense level 2, and then buffs driven, HP attack level 4, and defense up level 2. This is an insane buff to those particular colors and the driven class, because you can actually do some really, really cool things with both dex and int when it comes to driven. So when it comes to team building with dex and driven, as well as int and driven, you can do some really, really cool things. Obviously, you can see the int driven like force on display right here, but with dex, you have stuff like Doflamingo, you have stuff like Level Limit Break 5 Kid, and you have some really, really good options when it comes to building those teams. Nevertheless, you don't even really need to cater towards like driven when we are talking dex, and you can obviously use like the int powerhouse-centric version team as well, because you can still use just like the colors. His passive is very, very good for both dex and int, and if you just have a sprinkle of those driven characters sprinkled in anywhere, you can do some really, really cool stuff. Or not to mention the fact that you have something like this craziness that you see in front of us, being the the int quick driven team. You could put that team together as well, and you can do some really, really cool stuff there, building around those sort of quick units as well. But the thing with KAIDO and his GP is his GP burst isn't super desirable. After dealing 32 hits of damage, you can activate it, and basically what it does is it sets the enemy's defense down by level 10, and if you're in the last 50 seconds of battle, you can then do, I think it's 2.5 times his leader attack in damage to, or it's 2.25 maybe, to Psi units that goes through defensive abilities. Basically, this is just an instant win in the last 50 seconds if you are coming up against any Psi-centric teams. And it is going to be very, very good in the next GP, because like Roger has been running around like crazy in the first 2 GPs, and utilizing something like this, especially because you can activate it twice, could be very, very good, not only for 1 fight, but for 2, if you do come up against a lot of Psi-based units. The int-driven team is very, very powerful, and it obviously has units like Fujitora from the quick side. You can use stuff like Shiki, you have stuff like Tesoro, and you can do some really, really cool stuff there as well. But my favorite team that I did put together was this one here. As I mentioned, I really want to put Pell in that spot over Dalton. I think that might work just a little bit nicer. But as you can see, like, this team does absolute bits to pretty much every team in the game. There is obviously that outlier. As always, Wano Law stays winning. You do need to be very, very careful when you're coming up against Wano Law. And as always, when you are playing Pirate Rumble, don't verse stuff that's probably out of your league, or verse stuff where things are going to get a little bit tricky if you're trying to get your wins. But that's going to wrap up the video. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are of KAIDO and PvP in the comment section below. While you're down there, don't forget to belt the like button. If you're new to the channel, you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. Most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Later!